Welcome everyone to the very first Yukon Winter Challenge. You have joined us for the Polar Vortex series. And the question tonight is, do you have what it takes to conquer the Polar Vortex? We have had a storm roll in today here in the Northeast, and we are excited to get going today. Just to let you know a little bit of what to expect as we go along with this, the schedule each time that we meet is going to be about a 45-minute Zoom meeting. Be live on Wednesday nights. They will be recorded so people can watch them at different times. It's going to be tonight, the 16th and the 30th, and then January 13th and 27th, and then February 10th and 24th. And they are all 2 weeks apart, and you have assignments to do during those times. So we're looking forward to that. As we get started tonight, I'm looking for Jacob Snow. He's going to jump in here with us. He is going to read for us some scripture, and then I'll pray.
Hey, Sean, how
Yes.
about we all mute ourselves? Let's all do that.
Yep, everybody should mute themselves. I'll mute everyone, and you're going to have to mute yourself back out if you are the co-host. You can do that. Jacob, do you have your mic on?
Yes.
All right, Jacob, I have the scriptures here that you're going to read. Let me go forward with them, and you can go take off. He's reading 1 Peter 5 through 11.
In the same way, you who are younger, submit yourselves to your older elders. All of you clothe yourselves with humility toward one another, because God opposes the proud, but shows favor to the humble. Humble yourselves, therefore, under God's mighty hand, that he may lift you up in due time. Cast all your anxiety on him, because he cares for you. Be alerted and of sober mind. Your energy, the devil prowls around like a roaring lion, looking for someone to devour. Resist him, standing firm in the faith, because you know that the family of believers throughout the world is undergoing the same kind of sufferings. And the God of all grace, who called you to his eternal glory in Christ, after you have suffered a little while, will himself restore you and make you strong, firm, and steadfast, to be by the power of ever and ever. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Jacob. And would you pray for us, please?
The Trailman honors God. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you that we can meet here on Zoom tonight to start the Polar Vortex series. Please help the leaders talking as they give us their wisdom and guidance, and that we stay safe and healthy during the upcoming holidays. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Jacob. We are looking for navigator level men, trailmen, to help us like Jacob has tonight. Well, my name is Sean V2. I'm your host through the Polar Vortex. And let me go through some announcements with you tonight, just so that you're aware of what's taking place. This is different from what we call the Ohio Yukon Adventure. This is the Polar Vortex series, but it gets you ready for the Yukon Adventure. And if you are a navigator or an adventurer level, we would love to have you join us. Mr. Eric Tanner is the leader of that on February 5th through 7th up in the north. Every year we've held it in the north. We have had snow, guys. Can't say that about the south. They're meeting on February 19th through 21. You choose which direction you want to head, north or south, and come and be with us for the weekend. It's a great time for you to learn and experience what it means to work as your patrol, and also take the skills that you've been learning with your badges and put them to real life experience. And Mr. Tanner does a great job of doing that with you. Also, I've been up here in Alaska. I'm on a reconnaissance trip for Alaska 2022. Guys, Tony McConnell's leading this. This is going to be a great experience, adventure of a lifetime right there in Denali. And we're looking forward to that. If you are adventure level, this will be for you in 2022. There's a shakedown trip that will be in next summer up in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and then we'll tell you more about that in a little bit. Well, hey, there's something also. We are always open for adventure, aren't we, guys? And so looking up in the sky, there is something that's not going to happen again for 80 years that you can see. and that is Saturn and Jupiter are going to come very close to one another. And what that is called is a conjunction. They will be very close all the way up to December 21st. Some would think that this is what the Star of Bethlehem was. I would think that it's a little bit different than this personally. And if you would like to know more about the night sky, that picture that you just saw is from a man named Jay Ryan. He's a good friend of mine, classicalastronomy.com. You can learn more and have a whole experience doing that. He also talks about the Star of Bethlehem in his article there. Get ready. One last thing for announcements tonight, and that is this. Troop Masters or his appointee, this is a chart that we will be emailing out to you so that you can keep track of all the gold nuggets for your troop. And so that is going to be all of the gold nuggets, guys. There are 31 different ones that you could potentially earn during the Polar Vortex. That's all for announcements. We're ready to get started, and we're up with Kent Marks. Kent Marks, take it away on the Yukon Gold Rush.
How about that? Can you hear me, folks? All right. So the Yukon Gold Rush Adventure. What do we have, Sean? 5 minutes here?
Yeah, we have about 10 minutes here.
10 minutes. Okay. We'll go over each week here, just talk about it a little bit. Is that what we're doing now, Sean? Or we're going to talk about week one?
We're going to talk about a little bit of the schedule here, the 6 weeks. I have a map up next.
So if you are a history buff, or you're someone that likes adventure, likes to get out, how many of you guys like to get outside and do adventure and explore things? I do. I'm just a big 12-year-old, and most of us adults are the same way. You know, back in the 1896, 1897, there was a report that came out of this faraway town called Dawson City. It took a whole year for that message to get out to the world because we didn't have cell phones or internet or anything like that. We had boats and we had weather. And what happened was someone found gold in the Yukon area, actually on the Klondike River, one of the tributaries of the Klondike River, which meets at the Yukon, and at that conjunction is the town of Dawson. It was just a wilderness town. Met less than 450 people there, and when someone found gold, those folks there, they went out and claimed their lots on the up or down from the original claim. So what happens is someone found gold, and they have to travel about 500 miles to a government agency to properly file a claim for yardage. It's usually 100 yards of upstream of the main. The original one was 0. So anyone that went to claim upstream or down, the one upstream would be called 1 up, and the one downstream would be 1 down, and 2 down and 2 up, and so on and so on. So these guys would have to travel 400 or 500 miles to the local government to claim that chunk of river, so they could officially have that as their claim to search for gold. Now the word got out in the world, and the whole world got gold fever, and they came from all parts. And when they came from all parts, as you can see on this map, there were 2 ways to get to Alaska, and it took a long time to do that. Remember, this is the 1800s. Some of them took the ships. They went to Seattle, and they went up to the passageway up along the shore of Alaska, up to the Yukon River, and take the Yukon River all the way to Dawson City. The problem is the Yukon River is only open for about 3.5, 4 months a year because it's iced and frozen over the rest of the time. However, many of the prospectors, we will call them prospectors, went to this little town called Skagway. You see it there, Skagway. It's the gateway to the Klondike. That is a little sleepy town that wasn't so sleepy after everyone started taking ships to Skagway. Now, at Skagway, they had to travel overland. And the first week we're going to this meeting, we're going to talk about Skagway. The second one, we're going to go to the Chilkoot Trail. Now, we're not going to talk too much about it because we're going to give some out of that way if we do, but the Chilkoot Trail was one of 2 passageways, the Chilkoot Trail or the White Pass Trail. And that came out of a town called Daia, which is near Skagway. But most folks took the Chilkoot Trail. Once they got through the Chilkoot Trail, which is really tough, they got to the Canadian border. And at Canada, Their Mounties says, you can't come into our country unless you have 1,000 pounds of gear that we approve. So these prospectors had to go back and forth and climb that staircase, the stairway, the golden stairway, they call it, to get to the top of the Canadian border. Once they are approved by the Canadian Mounties, most of the summer is gone by then. Now they started heading down through the mountains. It's actually called the Coast Mountains. And at the Coast Mountains, they would come to the lake. It's called Lake Bennett. And Lake Bennett was right beyond the border there, as you can see on the map. At Lake Bennett, usually by the time they got that 1,000 pounds of gear to Lake Bennett, the rivers and the lakes started freezing in. And guess what they had to do? They had to stay at Lake Bennett for the whole winter. That was tough because that was a good thing the Mounties had them bring food and bring supplies. But at Lake Bennett, they built boats. Some guys made their fortune in the gold fields by building boats. They never made it to the Yukon. They just built boats at Lake Bennett and went home with the fortune of, selling boats all the time. And once they paddled down, took the boats down from Lake Bennett, they went down the Yukon River. You can see that yellow line, takes you all the way to Fort Selkirk. Many prospectors died on this section of the river because it was treacherous. A lot of boulders, a lot of rocks, a lot of waterfalls, a lot of rapids, and these boats would break apart. People would perish. Once they got past Fort Selkirk, they made their way to Dawson City. Now, the thing is, you get to Dawson City, and most of the prime goldfield tributaries were taken up by claims. By then, Dawson City had a government agency, so you didn't have to go 500 miles. However, there was plenty of goldfield territory for these prospectors. Once they got to the goldfields, only about 3% of them actually made any money. And the rest of them worked for others and just made do. But the thing is, they experienced an adventure. And that's what we're going to do here, guys. We're going to take this adventure from Skagway to Dawson, and we're going to do all kinds of activities for the next 12 weeks to make this happen. All right. So here's number one. Here's week number one. We're going to talk about this Yukon adventure. In 1897 to 1898 and 1899, prospectors from around the world headed to Skagway and died, just like I was saying, to the gold fields of Canadian territory. These small seaport towns became boom towns. Remember, 450 people in Dawson, it became 30,000 in less than a year. Now, Skagway, the town, once you got on a boat and it took you to Skagway, and I've been there. I went to Skagway about 8 or 9 years ago, and I got to hike up the Golden Staircase, which you see this picture here. See all those prospectors carrying a bundle up that they carried up. Now, if you look off to the right just a little bit, I don't know if you can see it here, but they would slide down, just get on their butts and slide down that mountain to come down and get their next batch of gear and carry it back up. Some people made their living in the gold fields by being a Sherpa. They carried gear for someone else and got paid to do that. Thousands of miners, once they got to Skagway, most of the summer was over, and they had to build shelters. They had to build tents. They had to do whatever they could to stick around until the winter took place, until the spring thaws came and they could start moving their gear. As you can see, they were moving gear during the winter time, having it at the top of the Coast Mountains, waiting for the Mounties to approve them. So they did a lot of work and preparation during the winter. But where they had to stay, they had to build their own shelters. They had to build cabins. They had to build tents. They had to pay for lodging if someone had lodging. But anyway, they had to make the tents and prepared for the trip to the wilderness, ultimately finding Dawson City and the goldfields. Summers were short, so we had to build the shelters. The shelters such as lean-tos. Now you can get fancy with a lean-to. Tents were very popular, but log cabins were the most popular because that was the best way to stay warm. You can build your own fireplace and stay warm. So we have a memory verse. This is actually the first opportunity, Trailmen. This is a gold nugget challenge. Now you're going to have an opportunity to earn gold nuggets through this adventure to the Yukon. Now here's how it works. And first of all, the Trailman is honorable, and he's honest. So we're going to take your word for it, and your leader, once you say this memory verse and memorize it, your troop leader or that person Sean was telling about that's keeping track of your records will mark down that you've memorized this verse. Psalm 91:1. He who dwells in the shelter of the Most High will abide in the shadow of the Almighty. That's interesting. Now, that could be a shelter that we're talking about. but it's also the shelter that you place yourself in the glory of God. And but we're going to use that first as something that's comparison to what we're doing in the Yukon gold rush adventure. So this is your first gold nugget challenge, but here's the other ones. I gotta read here. So our gold nugget challenge, let me get the screen to go away. First gold nugget challenge, Trailmen. Go out your backyard or a place in the woods and build a lean-to or similar shelter. Now, you want to build this lean-to so you can get into it. You don't have to make it for 15 people. It's just got to be you. But this shelter, when I taught wilderness survival, you build a shelter, I'd make you get in it and I'd splash a cup of water on you. If you got wet, you didn't pass. So the idea, gentlemen, is not to throw some sticks up and say good enough. You want to go out there and you want to live and feel and experience how those prospectors lived over 130, 120 some years ago, and how they overcame and adjusted into the Yukon. So we want you to go out and build this shelter and see if your shelter is protected by rain, snow, and wind. Now, you guys down in Alabama, you're not going to get snow, but you're going to get wind and you're going to get rain. So if you're really good at it, build that shelter and have your parent or have a friend or something take a little cup of water and you laying into it and have sprinkled all over your shelter. See if you get wet. That's the true challenge there, gentlemen. All right, the next gold nugget challenge. Collect sticks the thickness of your thumb. Everybody put your thumb up there. See that thickness of that thumb? That thumb, that's about my thumb's about 3/4 of an inch in diameter. So you want to go out and find sticks that are about thickness of your thumb. Try as uniform as possible, about 12 inches long. All right, 12 inches long. Collect about 60 of them. Now, if you have a hot glue gun or you have something else where you can actually connect these sticks together, or if you're really good, you take the time and if you're an adventurer and you're responsible and you've got a knife and you know how to carve, you can actually carve your own little notches in your logs to make your scale model log cabin with these sticks. The hot glue gun is usually the best. So you get really creative. You can make it real simple. You make it really difficult. You make it really, really extreme. But the idea is to experience how to build a shelter in a scale. And that would be the shelter that, maybe you or someone else that was an adventurer and a prospector might have stayed in Skagway or at Lake Bennett on the way to the Yukon. The third gold nugget challenge. Now, my wife says bird houses. Well, here, bird houses is still a house. And if we do a project, you can actually build a birdhouse and your birds will benefit from this. So I think this is pretty cool. Take the birdhouse plans I think we're going to have these attached, right, Sean?
They will be. That's correct.
Okay, we're going to have, I think there's 3 different birdhouse plans that you can actually go out and build. Now, check with the birds that reside in your area and build an appropriate birdhouse. Now, if you're a little guy, if you're a younger fellow like a woodsman or a woodland, I'm going to call you woodland. How's that? If you're not ready to be cutting some wood, you can actually build this birdhouse. Get some cardboard and tape it together. Try to make a little birdhouse and see how it looks like. So these are the 3 gold nugget challenges. You can do 1 a week and you can get by with a minimum. But I challenge you, prospectors out there. I challenge you to try all 4 gold nugget challenges. Remember, the memory verse, the gold nugget challenge for building lean-to shelter, the gold nugget challenge for making a scale model of a cabin, and the gold nugget challenge of building a birdhouse. You have 2 weeks to do this.
That's right.
Between now and the next time we meet, we want to see pictures and photos and all that. So,
guys, I've just put my email in the chat box so that you know where to send pictures of your projects. We want to showcase them in our next video. Everything that you see on the screen right now will be emailed to you so that you have directions along with those birdhouse plans that Kent has been talking about. So look for those. They will be out by noon tomorrow. They will come in, and if you have registered and are on this video, then they will come to the email address with which you registered, okay? So be looking for them there. The other thing is be thinking about some friends that you would like to invite that are not on the video tonight with us, and invite them, and I'll tell you about another special gold nugget you can earn from doing that. All right, Kent, we have your handouts to look at a little bit here, and then we're going to move on. about this. This is the information there that you and some drawings. Did you know that Ken is a great artist? He drew those.
No, that's just a pencil and just some chicken scratch. Notice my cabin's leaning. Well, you know why cabins lean in Alaska in the north? It's called permafrost. You guys ever heard of permafrost? Permafrost is where the land may look like it's soil is fresh, but underneath the land is frozen soil, frozen ice, and it'll adjust, it'll move, it'll freeze, it'll thaw, and your buildings will move in all kinds of directions. I've been in restaurants in Fairbanks that the doors don't work or the windows are crooked because the building's moving all the time. But that's permafrost. So that's my story. I'm sticking to it. But listen, you prospectors out there, here's the thing. This is how it's going to work. You see this? Who was the president when the Klondike Gold Rush took place? Yeah, you can Google it if you want, but if you really want to, really go study it, go the old-fashioned way and really explore and get some books out and see if you can figure that out. But the last name of the president will fill those blanks down there in order. When you fill those out and you know it's the right president, the letters that are circled, you want to hang on to those, because after 6 weeks of these flyers, just like this that we're sending you, after 6 weeks, you're going to have about 25 or 28 circled letters. Those are key letters. At the end of 6 weeks, you're going to take all 6 of those, all 6 weeks worth of circled letters, and you've got a word scramble. And we're going to see who can figure out the answer by word scramble. It's going to be tough. But you know what? If it was easy, everyone would have gone to the Yukon, but not everyone made it. It was not easy. It was tough. You know why? Because men, you got to be tough. You got to do tough things to be a man. And this is one of them. This is what we'll see if you can excel in the challenge that's been thrust in front of you, young men.
Very good, Ken. Thank you so much for that first example in our polar adventure. We are now to our second segment, and this is Trailman Tips for the Trail. And we are showcasing different adventurers in our area of the North Central region. Tonight, Isaac Brown from Troop OH 1613 is going to be here in a moment with us on a video. Going to watch. He's going to teach us to stay in shape indoors for the outdoors. Next time on December 30th, Caleb Brownlee from Troop Ohio 360 is going to show you how to sharpen a knife while you're on the trail. When your knife gets dull, what do? He's going to be helping with that. I need 4 more adventure level guys that would say, here are some skills that would help. If you have 4 guys, we're looking for you to come on out. Let me know. Email me, and that will be a great thing to do. But without further ado, I'm going to introduce Isaac Brown via our video that he has sent into us, and he's made very well. We have enough time. We may have an opportunity to do some Q&A with Isaac, but I think we're going to have to move right to our other segment. So let's get started with this. Here we go.
Hey Trailmen, I'm Isaac Brown, and I'm an adventurer from Troop OH 1613. Even though some of us are stuck inside due to COVID-19, or just because the seasons are changing, we can still be good stewards of our body and stay fit for the next time we get to spend time in the great outdoors. And I'm going to show you how to do that today. Before I begin my exercises, I'm going to get a good stretch in. We have to stretch our bodies before and after we work out to make sure we don't pull any muscles and hurt ourselves. Let's start with high knees. We're going to make sure we get our knees up to our waist, and we're going to do this for about 10 seconds. Good work. Now next, we're going to do butt kickers. We're going to make sure our heels get all the way up to our bottoms. And again, we're going to do this for 10 seconds. Nice job. Next, we'll stretch our calves by reaching down with our left hand and touching our right toe, then taking a couple steps and taking our right hand to our left toe. And we'll do that for 10 steps. Nice job. Now that we stretch our legs, we're going to get our arms warmed up by doing some arm circles. We're gonna go 10 seconds forward like this, and then reverse and go 10 seconds backwards. Sweet, now that we're all stretched out, let's get started. We use our upper body, our arms, our shoulders, our chest, and our back a lot in the outdoors. Everything from climbing to carrying all of our gear to the camp out relies on our upper body. So let's learn how to work those muscles at home. First, we'll learn how to do a good push-up. We want to make sure our back and our legs are straight, and we bring our chest straight down to the ground with our elbows in, and then straight back up. Now that we know how to do a good push-up, let's look at some variations. So we have our normal push-up. We can move our hands out to the sides and do a wide push-up. We can move them so that they're touching, so our thumbs are together, and do a narrow push-up. And then we can go back to our normal push-up, stance, and go down, put our arms to the side, and then back in and up. That's called a hand release push-up. Now all of these different types of push-ups work different muscle groups, and we want to make sure that all of our muscles are nice and strong. Now that our upper body is nice and fit, let's work on our core. Although you might not think that we use our core very much, the muscles in our stomach are used in almost everything we do every day. To work these, we can do sit-ups, just like this, all the way down to the ground and back up. And if that's too hard, you can have a sibling or just put something that weighs a decent amount on your feet to hold them still. We can do flutter kicks, where you keep your back flat on the ground, don't let it creep up like that, keep it nice and flat, take your feet off the ground, and just start kicking. Those are flutter kicks. We can do cross crunches, where you put your arms and legs flat, and bring right to left, then left to right, then right to left, left to right. We can do Russian twists, which we put our feet off the ground, touch to one side, then to the other. And just keep going back and forth. And if those are too easy, you can get a weight or something like a milk jug and go from side to side, just to make it a little tougher. And finally, we can do the plank. Now, we can start with our normal plank, which is down on our forearms, with our back and legs nice and straight. And then we can switch to our side, keeping our hips off the ground. And do that on both sides. And then we can switch to a reverse plank, keeping your hips up off the ground. Finally, we can't forget about our legs. From hiking to biking to mountain climbing, our legs are the foundation for our strong body. We can do jump squats, like this, get low to the ground and explode up. We can do split squats, which is one leg forward, and we make it look like we're running. We can do T-drives, which you put your right foot on the ground, and bring your left foot up behind you, and make your body look like a T, and then bring your left knee up.
Is there
Make it look
something
like
we're
you're running
supposed
like
to be
that.
seeing?
And then we switch legs, do it on our left.
Oh.
And then we can do things called T-hops, where you have your legs out behind you, you take them apart, together, and then up, then back, apart, together, up. And then we can do mountain climbers, where you just run like this with your hands on the ground. And all of these core exercises we can do for 30 seconds to a minute, depending on how hard they are to you. Phew, that was a tough workout. But you know, I'm feeling ready for my next camp out already. Before we leave though, we need to stretch again so that we don't get sore and cramped. So let's start with the runner stretch, where you put your knee on the ground, hands above your head, and lean forward. Then we switch legs and do each leg for 10 seconds. Nice job. Now we'll do the pigeon stretch, where you bring your leg under your body, out to the side, and lean on it. And then switch and do both sides. And again, do this stretch for 10 seconds. And then we'll do the cross stretch, where you lay flat on your back with your hands out to the sides, palms down on the ground, and reach your leg across your body.
Down.
And then switch. And do both sides for 10 seconds again.
Down.
Next, we'll do the scorpion, where we lay on our stomach with our hands out to the sides and reach our foot back behind us. And then we'll switch sides. Doing both sides for 10 seconds again. And lastly, we'll stretch our calves and Achilles, the muscles and tendons on the back of our legs. So we'll get up like this and push down with our foot that's off the ground, down on our heel, to get a good stretch in for both sides, and do it for 10 seconds. Another important thing to remember is hydrate, 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 especially when we're exercising or spending a lot of times outdoors any time of the year. Thanks for working out with me today, Trailmen. Stay healthy and walk worthy. Hey Trailmen, I'm Isaac.
So what did you guys think of that? We almost got a repeat. How about that, guys? Well, we have a fantastic. Didn't Isaac do a fantastic job at another adventure? You can step up and do the same thing. That's right. Let's give him a round of applause, guys. Isaac did a fantastic job. And you too, I'm looking forward to Caleb's presentation in a couple of weeks, but you too can share a skill, something that you can do well. And it doesn't necessarily have to be just related to cold weather. It can be just a general skill. So I'm Eric Tanner. I'm your assistant RTL, and we're going to talk a little bit about cold weather camping and the appropriate training. So here on the screen, you can see 6 skills that we're going to cover over the next 12 weeks. And today, you got a real treat because we're going to be talking about clothing, and we call it Keep It Loose. And this was Mr. Bacon himself, Jim Ramey. We're going to have also day packs is going to be next in a couple of weeks with Brandon Ellis. We're going to have emergency shelters. We're going to have first aid. We're going to talk about grub, and then we're going to talk about hostiles. Keep it loose, keep it on, keep it over, keep it close, keep it in, and keep it away. So that's kind of our theme that we're going to be going through. And you notice we've got clothing C, D, E, F, G, and H. Some trailmen can tell me what happened to A and B. But you think about it, and in the meantime, you got to think about some questions that you might have for Mr. Ramey, because Mr. V2 is going to tee up the video, and we're going to see what Mr. Ramey says about cold weather camping and cold weather clothing specifically. I learned a bunch from him. He came to our troop a few years ago, and he taught me stuff. So you guys, I know you're going to learn stuff. So let's hear from Mr. Ramey.
Hello, Trailmen. My name is Jim Ramey, and I'm committee chair for Ohio Troop 0016, and I'm also the High Adventure Chairman for the North Central region. I want to welcome you to the first of a series of the Polar Vortex, where we're going to teach you how to take care of yourself in the cold weather. Ephesians chapter 6, verse 10 teaches us to put on the full armor of God to protect us from evil. But what I'm going to do is try to teach you how to put on the armor to protect you from the cold so that you can go out and enjoy God's creation even in the wintertime. First thing we want to start out with is our feet. We need to keep our feet warm. We need to keep it protected. You cannot go out in sneakers and camp in the weather that is coming up here in the wintertime. You want to make sure you've got a decent leather boot, something similar to this, preferably insulated and waterproof. Now, if you can't afford the waterproof style, they do make waterproofing you can put on regular leather boots. Snow Seal is about the best thing I've ever seen that I have used. It's actually like a wax. It has beeswax in it, and you melt it down into the leather, and it will definitely waterproof your boot. You got to keep yourself dry. If you stay dry, you have a much better chance of staying warm. Remember that, because I'm repeating that during this presentation. The next thing you want to do, I wear wool socks. Now, wool has properties that even if it gets wet, they'll keep your feet warm and it'll keep your body warm. Now, a lot of people do not like wool because it's real itchy and scratchy. Well, these wool socks are good and thick, and yes, they do have an itchy type wool on it, but they do have a wool called merino wool, and it's a softer wool, and it has the same properties as regular wool. It's just it's softer to the touch. It has the ability to keep your feet warm even when it gets wet, and they make all types of clothing out of this. You backpackers may be interested to know that they do make t-shirts and long underwear made out of merino wool. The best part about merino wool, it naturally has an odor fighter in it, that where even if you perspire, it will not absorb that odor, and you can wear it for a week at a time without it causing any odor. So a merino wool. These wool socks are relatively inexpensive, and I would carry 2 or 3 with me all the time. That way, if you get a pair wet, you can switch them out and keep your feet dry. And they do keep your feet very, very warm. They're very comfortable. At night, when I turn in, I've got these boot liners that I use, and I slip these on and sleep with these, and they keep my feet good and warm in the wintertime. There's nothing worse than cold feet when you're trying to go to sleep. So, these old liners do a good job of protecting your feet and keeping them warm. The next thing you want to take care of is your head. You lose a lot of heat through your head. A good knit cap is a good way to keep the heat into your head, and also will pull down around your ears, keep your ears warm. And if you wear something with a hood on it, that just adds more protection. These are also good for when you turn in and go to sleep, because you can pull this on your head so you don't cover your head up. If you cover your head up, you're going to breathe inside of your sleeping bag, and the vapor from your breath will collect inside your sleeping bag, and you're going to get wet. Remember what I say, if you stay dry, you've got a much better chance of staying warm. So protect your head with a sock hat or a hooded sweatshirt when you're sleeping. That way you won't cover up and get moisture inside your sleeping bag. Your hands. If my hands and feet get cold, I'm done. All right. So you want to make sure that you protect your hands. The best thing to use are mittens, because what mittens do, you have your 4 fingers in one chamber, and all the heat is in that one chamber and keeps all your fingers warm. Most of us don't wear mittens, but they do have Thinsulate type gloves that you can wear that protect you. So either ski gloves or work gloves that have the Thinsulate insulation are good. I would avoid brown jersey gloves. They're made out of cotton. If they get wet, you're going to get cold. They're good when they're dry, but unfortunately, if you're out in the snow, they're going to get wet, so try to avoid these. They're a good thing to sleep in. They're going to be dry when you get your sleeping bag, but as far as being outside and activities, you need a good pair of insulated gloves. All right, so that takes care of your feet, your head, and your hands. Now, what you need to do is take care of your trunk or your torso and keep the core temperature up in your body to eliminate getting hypothermia. Now, I can put on this heavy down coat. Now, this is full of douche gown. It will definitely keep me warm, but if I get too warm, I'll start to sweat. If I start to sweat, that's moisture. If I get wet, I'm going to get chilled if I take this off. So what we're going to teach you to do is to dress in layers. That way you can regulate the heat as you go and put on or take off more, you know, whatever your activities are, and keep your body regulated. The first thing you want to start out with is a good base layer. Now this is a wicking type t-shirt, and most of us have got a wicking type Trail Life t-shirt. These are good because they do take the vapor away from your body, and that keeps your skin dry. And if you stay dry, you get a much better chance of staying warm. That's your first layer. Now they do make long underwear out of that same material, and that way you can have your legs covered and have your torso covered also with a wick type material. Avoid cotton. Cotton does not have any properties to keep you warm if it gets wet, and you will get cold. I know a lot of people wear the quilted type cotton long underwear, but if it gets wet, it's not going to do you any good. So get a good synthetic type. Now they do have merino wool. They make t-shirts and long underwear out of. It's lightweight, and it does protect you even if it gets wet. It's a little pricey, but it's a good material, okay? For another layer, a wool shirt. Now, we're not out there to make a fashion statement. I went to the thrift store, got this wool shirt for 50 cents. So even if it doesn't match anything else you wear, your objective is to stay warm. So if you can get clothing like this at the thrift store just for camping for little or no money, then it's a good bargain. This is a wool shirt that I've had for years, and like I say, I paid 50 cents for it, and it does an excellent job. Another item you can use is a vest. This is a fleece vest. This is good for keeping your trunk warm, and it loosens up your arms. If you are doing strenuous things outside, you're not all bundled up and restricting your arm movement. So a vest is a good thing to keep your chest and your back warm, and that's a good layer to put over top of all this. What we're doing, we're layering up. And what you're doing, you're trapping air in between these layers, and it's just like the insulation in a house. That keeps the barrier to keep the warm air in and keep the cold air out. The more layers you have, the better chance you do to keep your temperature in toward your body. A fleece pullover can go over top of all that. Now we're protecting our legs. How are we going to do that? Well, if you don't have an insulated pair of pants, the next best thing, and it's also acts as a windbreak, is something you've already got in your backpack. And it's something you've got with you year-round. And that's your rain suit. You've got your jacket. It's got a hood on it. It's a good windbreak. If you put all these layers underneath of this, then you're bundled up pretty good. If you start getting too warm, you take a couple of these layers off, put the rain jacket back on to protect you from the wind, and you can regulate your body heat. Rain pants do the same thing. Now, most of us, unfortunately, are going to go out in blue jeans, all right? There's been out cotton. If they get wet, you're going to get cold. But if you can keep them dry, you've got long underwear underneath those, and put these over top, then you're protected pretty well in any type of temperature. So that's what you want to do. You want to make sure you layer up, protect yourself, keep yourself as dry as possible, and regulate your body heat. Stay hydrated. You can dehydrate in the wintertime just as fast as you can in the summertime. And your body needs that fluids to keep operating properly. Eat high-calorie food to generate enough energy to keep your body warm. Follow these tips. Use good common sense. Stay dry as possible. And you're going to enjoy the outdoors winter and summer. I will see you at the Yukon Adventure